People laugh when they see a hamster on a wheel. It looks almost ridiculous. This tiny puff of fur sprinting in place at midnight like it suddenly remembered an appointment. People call it hyper, obsessive, random. Just a cute little creature burning off energy in a cage. But that explanation is far too small for what you're actually seeing. Because when a hamster runs at night, it is not doing something silly, it is doing something ancient. Something its body has been preparing for long before wheels existed, long before glass tanks and plastic houses and quiet bedrooms. That frantic blur of paws is not a pet inventing chaos, it is a traveller with nowhere to go. And once you see that, the wheel stops looking like a toy. It starts looking like a substitute for a vanished world. A hamster is built for a life most humans never witness. Not the sleepy version curled in bedding all day. Not the soft, snack-holding version people post online. The real rhythm of a hamster begins when the light drops and the room softens. That is when its nervous system wakes up into the world it was shaped for. In the wild, many hamsters are nighttime foragers, small prey animals, vulnerable from almost every angle. To stay alive, they cannot move through the world the way a fox or a deer can. They do not stroll out into open land and hope for the best. They emerge carefully, under cover of darkness, when the risk of being seen is lower and the air is cooler. Then they move. Far more than most people realize. A wild hamster may travel remarkable distances relative to its size, searching for seeds, roots, insects, nesting material, and safe pathways back home. Night after night, its survival depends on motion. Not occasional motion, sustained motion. The body learns that food is scattered, safety is uncertain, shelter is precious. So the instinct is simple. Keep going, keep checking, keep collecting, keep returning. Bah, that is the animal sitting in the cage. So, when you see your hamster run for what feels like forever, you are not watching a meaningless habit. You are watching a body obey instructions written into muscle, hormones, attention, and fear. Move now. Search now. Cover ground while the dark protects you. The strange part is that the wheel goes nowhere, and the hamster knows that in the way an animal can know a pattern without philosophizing about it, it does not believe it is crossing a forest. It is not confused in some cartoon way, but the drive to run is still real, because the drive was never about the wheel. The drive is about the state the movement creates. Running changes everything inside that small body. It burns through arousal. It organizes restless energy. It satisfies the urge to patrol and explore. It gives rhythm to an animal designed for repetition and scanning. In a world that has shrunk to a cage, the wheel becomes one of the only places where the body can still act like itself. That is why taking the wheel away from a healthy hamster can be such a serious mistake. To humans, the wheel can seem optional, just enrichment, just entertainment. To the hamster, it can be one of the only outlets for a deeply rooted behavioral need. Not because hamsters are machines programmed to spin, but because locomotion is part of how they regulate stress, curiosity, and survival energy. And there is another layer to this that makes the whole thing even more moving. A hamster does not experience your home the way you do. You see one room, one enclosure, one corner table with a water bottle and a little hut. The hamster experiences zones of scent, vibrations through the floor, air currents, shadows, hidden spaces, exposed spaces, sounds from pipes and footsteps, and distant doors. Its world is less visual than ours in some ways, and more immediate in others. It lives close to the ground, close to smell, close to texture. Safety is not an abstract feeling. Safety is whether the substrate gives way correctly, whether the tunnel smells familiar, whether the air carries the trace of something unknown. So when night comes and the hamster begins to run, it is not just exercising, it may be processing the entire map of its reality, releasing tension, responding to a body that says the dark hours are for action. In the same way, a bird may feel the urge to migrate even in captivity. A hamster can feel the urge to range. The wheel is what remains of the road. That is why the running can look so intense, because the instinct behind it is intense. Small prey animals often live with a nervous system tuned toward readiness, not constant panic, but readiness. A hamster survives by noticing fast, moving fast, hiding fast, recovering fast. Its heart can race. Its startle response matters. Its routines matter. And mass 9, To live as something so small in a dangerous world, you do not get to be casual, and that survival design does not disappear just because the predators are gone. Domestication can soften behavior, but it rarely erases the old architecture completely. Beneath the cozy bedding and the ceramic food bowl is an animal, still carrying fragments of a harsher equation. Find food. Avoid exposure. Store resources. Keep moving through the dark. That is also why hamsters often don't just run. They dig, they hoard, they build tunnels, they rearrange. And they stuff food into their cheeks with the urgency of someone who does not trust abundance to last forever. A full bowl does not cancel the instinct to gather. A safe room does not cancel the instinct to hide. And a cage with bars does not cancel the instinct to travel. This is where people sometimes misunderstand them most. They assume a hamster who runs all night must be unhappy. Or they assume the opposite, that a hamster who runs endlessly must be perfectly fine because it has a wheel. The truth is more delicate than either of those ideas. Wheel running is normal, often deeply normal, but context matters. A healthy hamster usually shows a full range of species-typical behavior alongside running. It eats, grooms, digs, nests, pauses, explores, carries food, reacts to sounds, and settles into cycles. The wheel is one part of a larger life. But if the enclosure is too small, too bare, too exposed, or too stressful, the running can become amplified by frustration. Not because the wheel itself is bad, but because the wheel may become the only available language for unmet needs. That is one of the saddest things captivity can do to an animal. It can take a beautiful instinct and compress it until it starts to look compulsive. Imagine having a body built to cross distance, read terrain, investigate scent trails, choose between hiding places, and carry home the rewards of your search, and instead your available horizon is a rectangle. The wheel helps, sometimes enormously, but it is still translation, not the original text. And yet there is something strangely beautiful in the fact that the hamster runs anyway. It does not sit in the corner mourning the missing wilderness in some human dramatic sense. It does what animals so often do. It adapts. It takes the little circle we gave it and pours an ancient need into it. It makes use of the substitute. It keeps the pattern alive. That is not silly. That is resilience. And if you live with a hamster, there is something deeply humbling in that. Because care is not just food and water and saying, "oh," when it yawns. Real care begins when you understand that this tiny animal is not a decoration built for your amusement. It is a specialist, a creature with inherited expectations about darkness, movement, cover, substrate, and control. When you offer deep bedding, hiding places, room to roam, things to chew, places to forage, and a properly sized wheel, you are not spoiling it. You are giving its biology somewhere to land. You are telling its nervous system, in the only language it truly trusts, that the world makes sense. And that changes the relationship between you. Because what does the hamster learn from your presence? Not love in the sentimental way humans often want to imagine, not loyalty like a dog. Something quieter, something more fragile and, in its own way, more profound. A hamster begins by assuming caution. That is sensible. You are enormous. Your hands descend from the sky. Your scent floods the space. Your voice vibrates through walls of air the hamster cannot escape. If trust ever forms, it forms through repetition without harm, through predictable routines, through the experience of being lifted gently, fed safely, approached without sudden force. Over time, your presence can become part of the stable map of the world rather than a rupture in it. And that matters because for a prey animal, calm is expensive. It is not given away lightly. So if your hamster eats in front of you, grooms in front of you, explores while you are near, or returns to its wheel and runs without freezing every time you move, that is not nothing. That is an animal saying, with its body, that your existence has stopped meaning immediate danger. For a creature that small, that is a tremendous concession. And maybe that is the final twist hidden inside the midnight wheel. What looks like pointless running is actually a glimpse of scale, the scale of instinct, the scale of evolution, the scale of a life that seems tiny to us only because we keep measuring it with human eyes. But the hamster is not living a small life. Inside that body is a full geography of urges, to search, to store, to flee, to map, to regulate, to return. The wheel becomes dramatic because it concentrates all of that into one visible act. You are watching distance, with nowhere to unfold. You are watching memory without thought. You are watching an old survival song forced into a circle and still somehow sung with complete conviction. So the next time you hear that soft spinning sound in the dark, don't reduce it to a pet being goofy. Listen a little more carefully. That wheel is the echo of open ground. It is the shadow of a night journey. It is a tiny body, honoring instructions, older than your home, older than captivity, older than the idea that animals exist to be convenient. And in that quiet room, while the world thinks nothing important is happening, a hamster is doing what life taught its kind to do. Run, search, endure, begin again. If moments like this make you see animals differently, stay with me and subscribe. There is a whole hidden world inside the behaviors people call cute, and once you learn how to see it, you never look at them the same way again.